Welcome to the class of History, Politics, and Power. On this edition of the program, the analysis will continue, but from a different dimension. This time, we want to look at personalities, events in the history of Nigeria that define Nigeria's nationhood. In this case, we will be looking at the man who set the agenda for national politics in Nigeria. The man who molded the Nigerian constitution. They are also the men who established the political value system of Nigeria. So by and large, we are looking at the Nigerian nationalist triad: Ahmadu Bello, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and Obafemi Awolowo. The theme of this class is taken from chapter 9 of the book, Decolonizing Nigeria, 1945 to 1960, Politics, Power, and Personalities, a book written by Professor Tony Falola and Dr. Bola Dauda. Look at the book. There's the book I'm talking about. You see it, Decolonizing Nigeria, 1945 to 1960. It talks about power, politics, and personalities. It's a big book, a comprehensive history of the Nigerian state, 612 pages. Written by renowned scholars of Nigerian history, politics, and power. So one of the authors of the book is my guest on this edition of the program. He is Dr. Bola Dauda. Dr. Dauda, it's good to have you on State Affairs.
Thank you.
And I must thank you for writing this book.
It's our pleasure.
When you read the book, how do you feel?
Oh, how do I feel? How do you mean? How do I feel? Writing it or
reading it?
Reading it.
Yes.
Well, it's reading Nigeria, and from how it all started to where we are today. So anyone who wants to understand the politics of Nigeria, the political culture of Nigeria, and how everything all started from the time the British came in to where we are today, we find the book quite instructive, educating, and will help to understand why things are so difficult to fix in Nigeria today.
You know, the book is permanently on my reading table because I constantly refers to it. So often I am flipping through the pages to say, okay, so this is where we are coming from.
Yes.
And from the past, I can see why we are where we are. Now, this chapter 9 of the book, you started by quoting Obafemi Awolowo.
Yes.
I want to read. You said, I do not hesitate to confess. That's Awolowo now.
Yes.
I do not hesitate to confess that I owe my success in life to 3 factors: the grace of God, a Spartan self-discipline, and a good wife.
Yes.
From your research, what do Awolowo mean by Spartan self-discipline?
Yes, that is interesting because when I was in school in the early 60s, the motto for the school, or what we used to, is we call ourselves the Spartans. And from the Spartan history, a Spartan dies but never surrendered. So they were disciplined, they were determined, they were ready to die for whatever they believed in. So the Spartan is a good starting point to how people achieve what they achieve. So yes, the Spartans died, they never surrender.
Did Awolowo surrender?
I don't think he did.
What about Nnamdi Azikiwe?
Nnamdi Azikiwe came from a different background. Don't forget that Nnamdi Azikiwe was self-made in a way. He was a boxer. And there was a time he even thought of committing suicide in the U.S., So it was quite a hard life. But he was influenced by the American culture, political culture and social culture. And his Igbo background as well. So there were two different personalities.
So how do you define Ahmadu Bello in their midst?
Actually, understanding the Nigerian politics required going back to the early time, 1900, when the country was taken over. So at that point in time, Britain, United Kingdom today, exported the politics of United Kingdom to Nigeria by sending Lord Lugard to the north, who was also personified by Ahmadu Bello in terms of aristocratic background, in terms of the beliefs, and so on. And then you have MacGregor, a Scottish person sent to Lagos. And then you have more from Wales sent to the rest of the Southern Protectorate. So you had the British politics brought into Nigeria, and it was as if they selected the same personalities in the three core Nigerian ethnic group as the colonial masters.
Now that you have taken us to Lugard, let's read from your book. Here you were quoting Dame Margaret Panham, who said in her biography of Lord Lugard, there was a gloomy feeling that Britain, in its deal to take over Nigeria, was being let in for a bad bargain. You said, consequently, as Nicholson noted, the main difficulties in the amalgamation of the North and South Protectorate could be traced back to Lugard's own achievements in the North. There, instead of administering things and developing services, Lugard had been preoccupied with the widespread extension of rule over the people, an undertaking so unprofitable that it made amalgamation of the viable South and the bankrupt North both far more urgent from the point of view of the home government. I'm interested in this point. Bankrupt North, viable South.
Yes.
How?
It's interesting that people don't learn from history. And it's also interesting that the Nigerian politics today, still goes back to this issue of you have two separate countries, the North and the South, and if you like, the Lagos colony as a third factor, brought together by Lugard simply because of his political agenda. the North was not viable for Lugard because Lugard refused the Home Office from sending administrator to him. He actually made his brother, he introduced nepotism at its worst level to Nigeria. So instead of allowing the Home Office to send an administrator, Lugard resisted it. So he could not raise revenue, he could not develop the place, he could not do anything to help the people. And that's what we are still suffering from today, that the North, was far behind. There was no one university graduate from Nigeria from northern Nigeria in 1950. And when his successor took over from him, he lamented that for 20 years of Lugard's administration, there was no one qualified for the least job from the North.
You're talking about Sir Clifford here. Yeah. He took over from
Lugard. And by the time he took over, there was no one from the North. So the whole problem that we had about development started with Lord Lugard and the way he administered the northern Nigeria before northern Nigeria became unprofitable and needed to bring the southern Nigeria together to raise revenue to run the North.
So the point you're making is the amalgamation was carried out so that the South, the viable South, would help the moribund North. Is that a point?
Correct.
You've also made a point that the North was a country on its own and the South a country on its own.
In a way.
The Northern Protectorate, the Southern Protectorate.
Yes. And the Lagos Colony.
And the Lagos Colony. Do you feel Lugard should not have amalgamated the protectorates?
He had no choice because there was no way he could run the place without finance. And the only way he could do it was to bring it together. Unfortunately for him, he had people in power to help him. He would not have even been qualified because there was case against him for his activities in South Africa, before he was taken to Nigeria. So, but Chamberlain and his other friend there, they presented to the House that he was the most qualified person. So, in the end, he had the day.
You have talked about feudalism.
Yes.
Let's also read from your book. Historically, Falola and Dauda writes, historically, England is a class-divided nation with bundles of contradiction and paradoxes.
Yes.
Of course, all nations have their share of contradictions and paradoxes. All nations have classes, but England is in a class of its own.
Yes.
It is a nation of lords and royalists as well as commoners.
Yes.
Of missionaries and mercenaries.
Yes.
Of philanthropists and extortionists. With its two-party politics, it encompasses both conservatives and populists.
Yes.
Did England bring this its character to its colonies?
Of course it did.
How did that reflect on Nigeria?
The way it reflected on Nigeria and continues to determine Nigeria's politics is the fact that some people, for example, if you are born of working class in England, you die a working class. You can become a professor, you still feel yourself you are working class. So that is how much the class is, segregated in a way.
But John Major was of the working class, as is stated here.
Yes.
But he became prime minister.
He became prime minister, but he was never respected.
What about Margaret Thatcher?
Yes. Also.
From the working class.
Working class.
But she was respected.
That is where individual comes in. Margaret Thatcher was the first woman prime minister. And in fact, there used to be a saying that the only man in her cabinet was herself.
What does that mean?
It meant that the others were just yes people surrounding her. And she was so powerful that there was no way anyone could oppose what she wanted.
So in that case, it's not class that defines character.
It's always difficult to use words or to use logic to express some concepts. If you say it's not only class, yes, it's not only class, but class in England is very important. And it's still very important.
It's still very important.
Yes.
In this book, the point that Lugard's natural allies could only be the Hausa Fulani, whose ideals of control was conquest. How did Lugard fall in love with the North?
Well, if you are coming from a social background and you are now in charge of a territory and you find allies who share the same feudal, the same aristocratic background with you, it becomes easier for you to operate. For example, they could not trust Awolowo. They could not even, they feared Awolowo, but they knew Azikiwe was a different character. So in the end, it was very easy for Lugard to cooperate with the North. The other thing was that Lugard met a system in place. There was already tax system in the North. If you had so many cows or so many sheep or so, there's so much that you pay. So the tax system was there. Islam was also there, which has its own principles on taxation. So it was very easy for him to do what he did because the system provided the background for it.
Is that why indirect rule worked so well in the North?
Yes, it did.
It was an organized political system.
It was. That worked.
That worked. At that time, the political system in the North was complex and efficient.
Yes.
So can't we say that the North has the mastery of politics more than the South?
You are jumping the gun in terms of thinking from, it's like thinking backwards from what is present. You know, in the language is anachronic thinking, in which what didn't exist at the time, you are now superimposing the existing knowledge over what happened. So the system in the North, yes, supported it, but it doesn't mean that there weren't other areas in which the system also worked in the rest of Nigeria.
You know, on page 84 here,
yes,
the authors of the book alludes to the fact that Lugard's refusal to allow education in the North and his opposition to the general development of the colony was an issue. Why do you think he refused to allow education in the North?
I always want us to go back to the history of England. The principle in England is that if you educate people, they start getting ideas. So they didn't even allow Britain didn't have education policy until about 1980s. I don't know whether it's exactly 81 or 82, but until 1980s. So they had a system of using the class to support the aristocratic system.
And the North was constructed for that.
It was just a template.
I see. But they could not stop education in the South.
Because of the personality in the South.
Azikiwe and Awolowo?
In a way, Awolowo.
In a way, Awolowo.
Yes.
Why not Azikiwe?
Azikiwe, when Awolowo was promoting education, especially basic education, primary, Azikiwe thought it was yellow journalism. It was just looking for votes and didn't believe in it.
But there was education in the East.
It came later without any planning, and it failed.
But even the East even started building a university before the West.
I don't know what you are talking about.
The University of Nigeria in Nsukka.
Yes.
Obafemi Awolowo University, then OAU.
Yes.
So the East built a university almost at the same time that the West started its own.
Yeah, look back at where we are looking at 1945 to 1960.
Remember, Azikiwe went to the United States for education. Bonu, Ojike, they were all in the U.S. schooling.
Yes.
Before independence.
Yes.
So the East and the West were in hot competition in terms of education.
I don't know. What you are doing is reducing the facts as if it was the cause of, or it was meant. In 1951, Awolowo set up a committee to look into how they could introduce basic education in the Western region. And they planned. He got Professor Igun, who was a statistician from UN or so, from America, to come and help to plan for the education. Azikiwe didn't believe in it, that it was possible. So from 1951 to 1954, 55, when education took off, they planned for 150,000 children. And on day one, they had over 400,000 children. So it was after, in fact, Awolowo lost the election in the West in 1954-55 because of his introduction of free education. And people that supported him, Adelabu and so on, were saying, that means when you send your children to school, who's going to help you to sell your goods? So basically, it was after the success of Awolowo's free education in the West that Azikiwe rushed to introduce it in the East, and it failed.
And it failed. But as we speak today,
yes,
the East and the West are in hot competition when it comes to education, economy, and finance. How did the East attain that?
The Yoruba has a way of saying it, that you are looking at someone who has a crooked leg, and you are looking at the load, that it wasn't properly placed, whereas it's the crooked leg that is affecting it. So the competition came later, and it wasn't in the same way that it was done in the West, and that is what caused the whole problem of the gap between the North and the South. Yes, in fact, Azikiwe was responsible for the about 7 or 9 people that were taken to the U.S. and became, the big promotion of the East. But in terms of education itself, when you look at how it was implemented, Awolowo did not set up a school in the West. The communities did. The missionaries did. The Muslims catch up with it and started their own schools. So in terms of planning, Awolowo's plan for education was quite different from Azikiwe's planning for it. The communities in the East were sending their children abroad.
But communities were also building schools in the East. If you
Yes.
go to the East now, you have many community schools.
Yes, now you are saying. But in terms of the way it all started, the planning was more methodical, more realistic, and actually up to today, you can see the difference in terms of the way education was run in the West.
When we come to the personalities of these men, we will look at their character. Now let's look at this point here. We are discussing the Nigerian nationalist triad, and we took the subject from this book, this popular book by Professor Tony Falola and Dr. Bola Dauda, a classical work on the decolonization of Nigeria. It is a book I am recommending to you. In this analysis, we will go very deep in unraveling the issues and persons behind the Nigeria of today. So one of the authors of the book, Dr. Dauda, is my guest. Dr. Dauda, let me read from page 326 of the book. You said, the central characters that we here call the nationalist triad, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, and Sir Ahmadu Bello, set the rules of the late colonial era's political game. What do you mean by set the rules?
Yes, set the rule, depending on where they were coming from. Sir Ahmadu Bello knew how far behind they were, the North was, to compete with the rest of Nigeria, but also knew that they had the number. Don't forget, as far back as 1933 census, they have always put the North as 54-55% of the population.
Do you agree with that number?
You are putting me on the spot to
you are a researcher. Because if you look at Mali,
yes,
Mali's landmass is even bigger than Nigeria.
Yes.
But the population is around 11-12 million.
Thank you. The more reason why you want to question.
Yes. And
this is where the British politics, the way they have already arranged things. You can imagine today that it's not possible for you to become the president of Nigeria without campaigning throughout Nigeria for votes.
But that should be the right thing.
But the time we are talking about, the North knew they could control and win the election without even coming anywhere below Ilorin or below Makurdi on the other side.
Yes, Awolowo went to the North. But I hardly read anything about Ahmadu Bello coming.
There was no need to, because he could have the majority without coming to the South.
So do you believe in that population figure, that the colonial government...
It wasn't possible to have that population figure the way it is. I traveled a lot around Nigeria, long before. We are talking of 60s, 70s, You travel from Jeba to Kotangora, from Kotangora to Kaduna, and you could hardly see any city along the way. There's nowhere you can travel 30 miles in the south or in the east without meeting a very large settlement of people. So where did they get the figures from?
And they still retain the figures.
They retained it. Even as far back as, or as recently as the new constitution that we had, still put 19 states in the north against 17 or so in the south.
Okay, you have raised a fundamental point. The population of the north is a suspect.
I would say so.
So these men set the rules.
Yes.
Of the game.
Yes.
The political game.
Yes.
How did they set the rules?
Okay, take for example, election, for example. You want to conduct the election, and the North says, we don't want women to vote. And yet they still could win the election. they could still control the federal parliament. They were using teachers and so on as electoral officers, and they were also conducting election. That is why it was possible to say that, okay, when the motion was taken by Nahuru for independence and for 1953 or so, and the North said they weren't ready, the British in the end settled that, okay, West, you could have your independence, and they had it in 1956 or 57, and the East too. And it was only at the time of the general independence that the North became independent. So that was setting the rule. They were ruling according to their own principles and beliefs.
And Awolowo and Azikiwe could not counter them?
That is where Nigerian politics becomes interesting, because Awolowo grew up or was studying in UK in the 1940s, when the North and the South actually had the Constitution in 1946 that brought us together. Before then, North and South were ruled separately.
You're talking about the Richard's Constitution?
Yes, 1946. So, and at that time, Britain introduced national health, started their education, and so many other policies. So Awolowo learned how to run the British parliamentary system while he was on ground. Azikiwe grew up in the East, or at least studied in the East, in the USA, where they have presidential system. And you don't need to be a part of the House. You don't need to win a seat in the parliament to become a minister if you are in the United States of America. And as a result of that, when Azikiwe lost in Lagos and the West, he was no longer a member of the parliament in Lagos. And that's when he went back to the East to depose Professor Eyo. So you have a situation in which where they grew up, their politics, their beliefs, and so on, affected the way they ran the system.
You said they set the rules of the late colonial era's political game.
Yes.
With the death of Herbert Macaulay in 1946, no other Nigerian leader competed with the Triad as the founding fathers of the pre-independent Nigeria.
Yes.
So you agree they are the founding fathers?
There's no doubt about that, apart from Macaulay. So...
But today we hardly talk about Macaulay.
Yes.
Why?
This is part of a situation in which if you had a system and you don't think of succession, who is going to take over from you, or if the people who took over from you, they have unrealistic approach to running. Professor, or I would rather call him Professor Azikiwe. Azikiwe was a philosopher. And being a philosopher or a doctor of political science doesn't make you a politician. He wasn't a politician. And that's why he could not carry on Macaulay's agenda.
But he was part of the NCNC.
Yes.
Macaulay was the leader of the NCNC.
Yes.
When Macaulay died,
yes,
Azikiwe took the leadership of NCNC.
Yes.
So he carried on.
He carried on in name. You don't forget that the Sikhs movement, named after him, they were rounded up, they were being tried. Azikiwe did not even appear in court. Azikiwe would have become the first president or prime minister of Nigeria, just like his colleague in Ghana, Nkrumah. But Azikiwe refused to make himself available to go to jail.
Now that you have come to this point, let's read the book. You said social science basic theoretical principles are critical to broadening the scope of understanding Nigerian politics. For an autocratic hereditary dynasty, a feudal aristocracy, or an imperial regime, to voluntarily relinquish its authority runs counter to the natural laws of power and self-preservation. Therefore, it is a delusion to expect that the transition of colonized Nigeria with many ethnic primordial nationalities into a modern democratic nation state would happen simply through the lowering of the British imperial flag and the hoisting of the independent Nigerian flag. Interpret this part before we move on.
You see, Nigeria was like France. When France started, it said, look, we have now France. And the same thing in Italy. We now need to bring the French and the Italian. So in the process, they made conscious efforts to make it possible. So in the case of Nigeria, that we didn't have the people who were ready to do that. So what we had were local leaders or regional leaders, that we didn't have national patriotic leaders.
You know, the point you make here is that Britain handing over to the local leaders did not mean that Britain had stepped out of the scene. Is that not?
That's part of it.
You said, but since the concept of civilizing the so-called natives was synonymous with modernization, colonization itself was interpreted as a process of modernization. It was open to question if independence would translate into modernity. Before we go further, so Britain knew they were not handing over, really. They were still interested, right?
They were interested. They handed over, not because they wanted to, but because by the end of the Second World War, Britain was bankrupt.
So they needed
So
support.
if Nigerian leaders, if they had access to the secret documents, the confidential documents regarding the readiness of Britain to hand over, it would have been a different story. Britain handed over because Britain could no longer finance its colonies after the Second World War.
So can we also say that Britain preferred the northern region to control the system so that it will still have a hand on the system?
It will do. It will also create crisis because they knew that the political leaders from the north did not have enough resources to bring the over 240 of ethnic groups in Nigeria together.
But they handed over to the
They
north.
handed over because they know that that way they will still be there by proxy.
So they were there by proxy through the north.
Look at it this way. In the 3-4 days of darkness after the second coup in 1966, Gowon, the initial plan was for the north to break. It was the British government or British people that advised Gowon that, look, you want to cut your throat by breaking away. There's no way you can survive without the resources from the south.
But why do we make it feel as if the north cannot survive without the south? There are resources in the north. There are minerals in the north.
There are.
And the greatest resource for survival is human resource.
Yes.
There are people in the north.
Yes.
Erufai is from the north.
Yeah.
He is educated.
Yes.
Buhari is from the north.
Yeah.
Babangida from the north.
Yeah.
They have professors. So
Yes.
why do we feel the north cannot survive without the south?
It's not a matter of surviving without the south. Look at Africa. See what is happening in Niger, Mali, and so on. If if you allow people to rule themselves, they will survive. But by already bringing the North and the South together, you have already created a problem of how do you, for example, if you are talking of survival, in the South today, go and interview any Yoruba or Igbo person. They don't believe that they can leave the education of their children to the government. Yes, they ask for government support and so on, but parents will take care of the education of their children in the South. To have allowed the North for 40, 50 years not to educate the people. If you are going to run the North with the people who can write in Arabic, then they will run, they will survive. If they are going to run the North with Hausa language, they will survive. But you want them to compete with the South in English, with certificates from the South. Look at what mess they made of our education today with federal character that allows someone who scores, maybe we can hypothetically say 40 in Sokoto and get admission to Nigerian federal universities, and somebody who scored 80 in the South can't. They don't. It's not a matter of thinking they cannot survive. The issue is that they have not the institution, the framework for survival, because the competition is with the South. No one says that Mali can't run. Mali is like northern Nigeria in terms of the desert, the population and the vegetation or the climate.
Same with Niger.
Niger. Who says they are not surviving? The issue is that you bring them together with the South, and you now want to run the federal administration with university graduates. When I had my youth corps in 1974, Kano didn't have enough people to go to the 12 states. All the graduates in 1974 from Kano could not give them 12 to post to 12 states in Nigeria then. And you want them to compete with the South in terms of employment in the federal.
Yes, we are breaking down the points. This is an analysis of the Nigerian question through the personalities of Ahmadu Bello representing the North, Obafemi Awolowo representing the West, Nnamdi Azikiwe representing the East. In this analysis, issues are springing up. Lugard has been mentioned. And the analysis is based on the points raised in this classical work of Power and Politics, Decolonizing Nigeria, this book. And my guest is one of the authors. He wrote the book with Professor Tony Falola, Professor of History. You might agree with some points he has raised, and you might disagree, depending on the context. I hope one is allowed to disagree with you.
Of course. That's what discussion is about. The only thing is that if you want to disagree with the facts, then you go and present the facts as you know it.
You know, I'm trying to take the book page by page. Even sometimes I'm tempted to move to one page, but I'm trying to. That's why I keep taking you back.
Yes, thank you.
So that we move from page to page.
Okay.
You made a point about Azikiwe.
Yes.
I'm tempted to go there.
Go on.
But I'm saying, wait, I will round off with it because it is quite an interesting analysis of Nnamdi Azikiwe.
Yes.
So I will take it towards the end of the show.
Okay.
Let's go back to the definition of the Triad. You said, in their place as founding fathers, Nigeria as a nation was putty in their hands.
Oh.
These three men set the agenda for the national politics. They molded the constitution. They formed the political parties. They established the values. They set up the constitutional institutions for sharing the values of power and the wealth of nation. And they dispensed both the rewards for conformity to the norms and the punishment for breaching the shared values and customs. Thus, each one's part in the Nigerian dream is that of the dreamer or visionary, and as such, they were the script writers. Was Ahmadu Bello a visionary?
He has a vision of what North he wanted.
What was his vision of the North?
I wish he was alive so that he could tell us. But my own interpretation, or our interpretation of his vision, is that look at the NPC, Northern People's Party. So he represented Northern people, not Nigeria. And they didn't change the name. So you can't say you have any NPC from South or East unless it's settled in the South from the North. So if you have Northern People's Party, that means your vision is for you to rule, to look after the interests of the North. Look at the vision of saying, for example, we will not employ people from the South because it will be more difficult to dismiss them. So they preferred expatriates. Ahmadu Bello preferred expatriates to people from the South to work in the North.
He was not a nationalist.
Well, if you say so.
From what you have just explained. He was the leader of the Northern People's Congress.
Yes.
But refused to go to the center as
Yes.
prime minister.
Yes. This is where it's difficult to use language. He's a nationalist, but he's not a Nigerian nationalist. He's a Northern Nigerian nationalist.
So you can be...
If you say, for example, if you define a nation, you said you did so last week.
Yes.
Would you say that Nigeria is a nation?
I was going to ask you, is Nigeria a nation?
They said it's not, but we are trying to build it, to make it a nation, because most nations can be as a result of deliberate efforts by the people who live in such an area.
Is there no deliberate effort by Nigerians to make Nigeria a nation? They were all at the Lancaster constitutional debate in London.
Yes.
Was that not a deliberate effort to build Nigeria?
Don't forget what I said about Britain being bankrupt after the Second World War. If, for example, Britain decided in 1960 that we will give independence to 3 Nigerian states, Northern Nigeria, Eastern Nigeria, Western Nigeria, it could have stayed. Just as it was forced on it to have Pakistan and Bangladesh away from the old India.
You know, during those discussions before independence,
Yes.
Awolowo and Ahmadu Bello agreed that each of the region should have the right to say they want to break out.
Yes.
Azikiwe opposed it.
Yes.
And the British government supported Azikiwe.
Yes.
So in this case, like Awolowo, like Ahmadu Bello.
Yes.
Is it not?
Yes.
Awolowo was more Yoruba than Nigerian. Is it not?
Well, Awolowo, yes, Yoruba, but Awolowo was a politician. Azikiwe was not a politician.
No, who is a politician?
And the one who plays politics.
And Azikiwe did not play politics?
He didn't even understand what politics is about.
But he almost defeated the action group in the Western region.
You
The
think
NCNC.
You think so?
Yes.
Yeah.
When they started cross-carpeting in the Western region House of Assembly. Dr. Dauda, you forgot that?
No, I didn't forget.
Uh-huh.
It's just that when you are a politician, if you are an American politician, you don't need a constituency. You only need to promote your personality and your leadership quality to then get followers who will vote for you. If you are a British politician, which Awolowo was, you need a constituency. And he believed that the only way he could have a constituency is to develop that constituency and stayed in the West. In the case of Azikiwe, because he had no constituency, he went down to the East by his ethnic background to depose someone from the core, the Calabar Ogoja rivers.
Because he was forced to grab a constituency.
He was. Does that make him a politician?
But he had a constituency in Lagos where he won under the NCNC, even where he won under the Nigerian youth movement.
Yes.
That was a constituency.
That was a constituency, but it was not a sustainable constituency.
So he later went back. He was forced to go the Nigerian way.
The ethnic way.
He was forced to do that.
The ethnic way.
So the point is that among the Triad,
yes,
he was the true Nigerian.
Oh dear, so you are making a sweeping general conclusion.
Correct me.
Look at it this way. In 1942 or 41 or thereabout, when there was crisis with Awolowo supporting that there was Odemo of Ishara.
Yes, in the Nigerian youth movement.
In the Nigerian youth movement. He was not Odemo yet. And there was crisis. Odemo wanted to support, it has to do with where do you make the head office of the Jebu province. And Awolowo did not support Odemo. And as a result of that, there was the issue of someone from the southeast.
Ernest Ikoli.
Yeah. And Awolowo supported that.
Yes.
At the end of the day, Azikiwe lost and said it was politics. But it wasn't. The Jebus in Lagos supported Ikoli, who was not a Yoruba person.
Yes.
So,
at that time, the action group had not been founded.
No.
At that time, the Egbe Omo Oduduwa had not been founded.
No.
So Awolowo had not gone the Yoruba way at that time. They were still young.
Yes.
So at that time, they were playing nationalist politics. But as they grew older,
yes,
they decided to build constituencies.
Yes.
Awolowo went back to Yoruba land.
Yes.
Azikiwe remained at the center.
No, at that point in time, he said it was ethnic politics against him. He did not see that the Yorubas supported someone from the southeast who was not a Yoruba person.
Did he call it ethnic politics?
Oh, yes. Oh, get deeper.
Yes. We'll get deeper. We'll get deeper. But again, as we get deeper, because here we are trying to lay the background to the personalities. We have not gone deeper yet. Dr. Dauda wants us to get deeper, but not yet. We have to lay the groundwork. Then we'll plunge in. So let me go back to the book. I need to read this to you.
Okay.
I have talked about social science basic theoretical principles.
Yes.
That power is not just given.
No.
You need to take it. So the authors of the book continued saying, also, the traditional hegemonies would resist modernization, either consciously or consciously,
yes,
or both. And to unseat such hegemony without violence was beyond one individual, regardless of that person's ingenuity, charisma, and political acumen. Dr. Dauda, to unseat such hegemony without violence.
Yes.
Looking at the present Nigeria today,
Yes.
do we have political hegemonies?
Political hegemony.
Yes.
We are trying to build one. Nigeria is trying to build one.
Is the top leaders of the political class not hegemons?
To some extent, yes.
Because here, you said to unseat such hegemony without violence was beyond one individual.
Yes.
Let's assume that Nigeria is already a hegemony.
Okay.
And Nnamdi Kanu wants to unseat it. And he has launched a violent uprising. Does that make sense?
He's going to find it difficult.
Because the hegemony will fight back.
They will fight back. Yesterday I was listening to channel interview of, is it Oyema, the owner of Airpeace, who started a price war in the aviation. And the whole of the international hegemony gang against him. And they want to take Airpeace out of the market. That is the power of hegemony. Why? Because he came and betrayed the group. If he was ready to charge as much as 5 million, I saw at a stage that it was 22 million or so for first class on British Airways from Lagos to London. So he came on and said, look, this is outrageous. We can do it for 2 million. And then started the price war. They made it difficult for him to land on time at Gatwick, which belonged to a Nigerian. For that matter, they made it difficult for him to have a place where he could check in. That is what hegemony is about. It's like wanting to fight corruption when the entire system is systemically corrupt.
But the only way, from the definition here, the only way to displace a hegemony, especially political hegemony, is to go violent, is it not?
No, it's not. You can do it with violence, but you can do it without violence. Only it will be difficult battle.
The assumption, or the point I made about Nnamdi Kanu and violence in the Southeast, is an assumption. It's for political analysis. In the Southwest, there was Sunday Igboho. His fight was to deal with the Fulani hegemony represented by Buhari.
Yes.
So we saw how the system went after him.
Yes.
Is that the point you are making?
That's how powerful it can be. If you look at the present government, when Tinubu decided to choose a Muslim, they said he shot himself in the head, in the foot or whatever. And when he decided to go and take somebody who was not a Fulani as his running mate, that one was even more dangerous for his political career. That is where the game becomes interesting. You know that the whole idea of breaking the PDP was as a result of not allowing the Northerner to succeed Buhari. So it is like corruption fighting back. You know, if you have a powerful group and you want to displace them, you need to be clever.
You said to displace hegemony, it requires meeting a set of conditions.
Yes.
One, the mobilization of the masses for support.
Yes.
So that can be a revolution.
Yes. Well, at the extreme form, it's a revolution. But it can be a bloodless one.
It can be a bloodless one.
Yes.
You said 2, a well-organized, concerted, and orchestrated group alliance
Yes.
or an aristocratic class.
Yes.
Can you break that down?
Okay. Look at how Tinubu did it. He went to Kano to campaign more than 4 or 5 times because he needed that 0.5 million, which is total more than possibly all he could get in the Yoruba Southwest.
But you doubt that population.
No, it's not the doubting of population in a particular city.
Okay.
It is the whole population of the North that we need to think about. It's like the amount of fuel they said we were using before subsidy was removed. If you didn't doubt it, then why did the number come down so drastically as a result of removing the subsidy? Is it because we are no longer riding the car, or because they are no longer smuggling and so on? So there will be so many factors that accounted for it. But Kano has always been a large city right from the old caravan trade to Mecca to the north. So Kano has always been a large city.
So Tinubu went there
Because he needed the number. So that is part of orchestrating the number, the people, or system, or plans to make sure that the hegemony is broken.
And you said number 3, there's a need for the leadership of astute, diplomatic, and skillful politicians.
Yes.
Are you a politician?
No.
You don't play politics?
No.
What is politics?
Politics?
Yes.
In political science, Laswell gave us the basic definition of politics: who gets what, when, and how, in his book that was published in 1951 or thereabout.
In that case, I'm a politician.
Maybe. I don't know. I have not...
I can use this program to decide who gets what, when, and how.
Yes, you can. If that makes you a politician, then you are a politician.
Okay.
But who gets what means you need to tell us who listens to your program. That's all that you can go. You cannot tell us who becomes the next governor of Edo State.
So who can say that?
The politician.
Not the people?
True, in mobilizing the people.
So the people can be politicians in deciding who gets what?
Yes, but in politics, people have their say, not their way.
So sometimes political definitions are complex.
Of course. There's no definition that is simple.
You said to displace a hegemony,
Yes.
there must be the financial sponsorship of well-to-do business people.
Yes.
Money is involved.
Yes.
So Stalin wouldn't have taken over power in the Soviet Union without money.
You see, the way you want to bring in examples can make it difficult because logic does not work well in human affairs. So logic simply means all short people are evil. Bola is short, therefore he is a devil. So who can say money is not involved in Stalin's position as well? Unless you study the Russian something, then that's when you can really tell how much of money is involved.
By land they were robbing banks to get money.
Of course, anything you can do.
To break down the hegemony. Yeah. Like the boys in the Niger Delta are breaking through pipelines.
One of their tactics.
To get money.
Yes.
And the money they get, they use to fight the hegemony.
Yes.
They fight the Nigerian state.
Yes.
And they can confront the state.
Yes.
So they combine money, violence, and sometimes astute leadership, is it not?
Don't forget that we are all blessed with evil and good. So it depends on how you want to use. You are using your brain in the work you do. If you look back into your career of how you got to where you are today, and you look back at all those people who served their NYSC with you, then you will see the difference in what you brought in, what qualities allowed you to do what you are doing today. If you are not a reader, you will not can be a leader. You can't do what you are doing if you are not a reader. If you don't have a vision of what audience should be. So people can do anything they want to do, but they need some guidance from the people who are using them.
You said, although violent hegemonic transitions are associated more with interstate transactions than with domestic processes, the intra-ethnic conflicts and contradictions of Nigeria's multi-ethnic nationalism are important caveats to this. You said here, Sir Ahmadu Bello and Obafemi Awolowo recognized the preceding conditions.
Yes.
And made plans to work around them.
Yes.
They deployed necessary tactics and strategies to triumph over the obstacles constraining political advances in Nigeria. You did not mention Zik.
No.
Why?
Because he wasn't a politician.
But we have agreed he played politics.
He played it.
He decided who gets what. He removed the professor in the eastern region and took over. They're not politics.
It's politics. But will you say it was a democratic way? Will you say that...
Was Ahmadu Bello democratic?
It doesn't have to be.
He was a feudalist.
Yes.
So yet he played politics and Azikiwe did not.
Yes. Don't forget where you started, that they understood the prevailing circumstance and worked around it.
Nnamdi Azikiwe wanted to break that prevailing circumstances and redefine it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
That was his vision. He had a vision of Nigeria.
Good.
Awolowo had a vision of the Yoruba state.
Maybe.
Ahmadu Bello had a vision of the north.
Maybe.
Azikiwe had a broad vision, so he resisted any attempt for any of the regions to break away.
Yes.
So, is that not politics, Dr.
Why
Dauda?
did he support the Ojukwu in the end?
Why did he support Ojukwu in the end?
Yes, to break away from Nigeria.
What do you think?
No, you tell me. You are saying he has a vision of Nigeria. If he had a vision of Nigeria, he should die by that belief. He was not ready for you to achieve what you wanted. If you listen to Mandela, he said he was ready to lay his life for the freedom of the South Africans. Azikiwe was not ready to lay his life.
You said, for example...
He was not even ready to go to jail.
Okay, you keep coming back to that, so let's read what you wrote. You said, however, had Azikiwe been brave enough to identify himself with the Zikist movement in 1946, he might have changed the course of Nigerian nationalism.
Yes.
How?
You have young people who believe so much in you and name their movement after you as their hero, and you are not there to support them.
A missed opportunity, you say?
Not only a missed opportunity, it wrote volumes or spoke volumes of his character as a leader. He said they were young people with youthful exuberance.
You said, had he known that the British government had secretly made a plan to execute its decolonization policy, Dr. Azikiwe might have ended up in jail for a few months, like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, his Gold Coast contemporary. He might also have won the independence of Nigeria And since he was in an unrivaled position from 1946 to 1952, he might have emerged as the head of a united Nigerian state.
Yes.
You said he was in an unrivaled position.
Yes. There was nobody to... Don't forget, 1946 we are talking about. Ahmadu Bello has not been to as far down as Ilorin. He has never traveled down to Ilorin, not to even talk of Lagos, that he was supposed to come and rule.
By this time, Azikiwe had gone to America, he had gone to Ghana.
Yes.
And by this time, he had established the West African pilot.
That by the time Macaulay died, there was no one else. Don't forget, Awolowo was a student in 1945. He graduated, I think, in 1946. He was not in Nigeria. The whole country. And Azikiwe brought down the British government during the general strike in 1945.
He was that powerful.
That the colonial government has to concede. That was the position Azikiwe was in 1946.
You said such a triumph would have availed him the opportunity to fully implement a unitary government with a stronger center.
Yes.
And perhaps both Ahmadu Bello and Awolowo would have had no choice other than to follow his leadership.
Yes.
However, by his dodging and ducking to save himself from jail at a critical time, Dr. Azikiwe missed his chance of being the triumphant hero or immortal martyr of Nigerian nationhood.
Yes.
He missed it?
He missed it. And when he had the second chance too, he missed it.
What was the second chance?
After the election in 1959 that gave us the independence, Awolowo offered to him. They didn't have clear majority that he should bring Action Group and NCNC together to form the government, that he will be finance minister and Azikiwe will be the prime minister. Azikiwe refused and decided to go with the North.
Why did he do that?
He was always thinking of, how he could, I don't know. I would think that he was thinking of how to promote the Igbo interest.
And is that not altruistic?
Is that not? Well, yes, it is for the Igbo, but not for what he was supposed to stand for, which is one Nigeria.
So you feel he was a coward?
If you use that word, yes, and a bad one too.
But he was brilliant.
Yes, he was a philosopher.
Can a philosopher be a coward?
Of course.
I thought a philosopher is a deep thinker.
And that doesn't make them a brave thinker. A deep thinker is different from a strong one.
Awolowo was courageous.
To some extent, in the sense that even when the chances were that, and he actually lost in 1956 because of his policy of education in the West, he was ready to say, look, they said they have enough system in place to rig the election. I said, no, if they cannot win on policy, then they are not fit to be in government. Azikiwe didn't believe in that.
You said, for example, at the end of his trial in 1963, it only took Chief Obafemi Awolowo only a few minutes to deliver, like Mark Antonio, inciting the Romans to rise against Caesar's assassins in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, the prophetic speech that threw the western region into chaos, making it ungovernable until his release from jail after the military coups in January and July 1966. Indeed, the breakdown of law and order in the Western region from 1962 and the Agbekoya revolts at the peak of the Civil War in 1969, both were rooted in the commoners and peasants, violent reactions against blatant electoral rigging and the real or perceived injustice in the treason trial of their esteemed and heroic Chief Awolowo. Likewise, the assassination of Bello and Balewa during the January 1966 coup evoked popular revulsion from northerners against the Igbos, personified by Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogu, the leader of the coup. So the point you make is that in his fight against imperialism and racial discrimination, Azikiwe, as the voice of the oppressed colonial subjects, was acknowledged as a nationalist hero because of his courageous use of the media to blast colonial machinery. Now, Awolowo went to jail, but his charisma, his courage, triggered a revolt in the Western region.
Yes.
Ahmadu Bello and Tafawa Balewa were killed. Yes. Their deaths triggered a crisis, a revolt in the north, yes, that led to the pogrom.
Yes.
So, they were courageous, you agree. But you have said Azikiwe is courageous. He used the media to fight the colonialists.
Yes.
Courageous.
Yes.
Courageous.
In a different context.
He held the colonialists to ransom.
Yes.
Courageous.
Yes.
He even held Awolowo to ransom in the Western region with his paper. Courageous.
Yes.
How is Azikiwe not courageous?
As I told you, all along, I keep on saying how we run into conclusion from a wrong premise. When you are talking of using the media or writing in the paper, Azikiwe was brilliant. And don't forget the role of the media in Nigerian politics. You know that Azikiwe, Awolowo, Akintola, they were, and Odemo, and so many others were all journalists in their days.
Yes.
So as a result of that, they knew the power of information and they use it. But when it comes to politics, when it comes to having a plan of how you want to govern the people, Azikiwe was a philosopher.
Was Awolowo a philosopher?
Not really, but he was ready to learn.
But from his work, from his book that I read, I see a man who philosophized consistently.
But also a politician.
A politician can be a philosopher.
Yes.
In fact, I define Awu as a philosopher.
Yes,
you
will be right.
You know his statement in court before he was sentenced?
Yes.
That was a philosophical statement.
Of course.
He saw the future.
Yes.
He predicted it.
Yes.
That is philosophy.
Yes, that's okay. But to now know how you bring that into reality, into practice, Azikiwe was wanting.
Because in my research, I also discovered that Azikiwe was advised. Even if you read Billy Dudley.
Yes.
Billy Dudley
He
felt...
was my external examiner for my first degree.
Okay. He felt that to unify the country, there was a need for a southern and northern coalition, not south-south coalition.
Yes.
That was to keep Nigeria one. Yes. And that's what Azikiwe wanted, keeping Nigeria one. Yes. So the North would have been excluded from the government at independence.
Which would have solved the problem permanently.
How?
Because even Tafawa Balewa believed that 1914 amalgamation was a mistake in 1951. So you may look at it in terms of bringing Nigeria one, but it would have, maybe they would have left the rest of Nigeria peacefully.
So we wouldn't have fought a civil war.
There wouldn't have been any civil war. If they decided to go and it was agreed, then end of the story. Just like Pakistan left India, just like Bangladesh left Pakistan.
And do you think Yoruba and Igbo
Just
would...
as recent as maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we have southern and northern Cameroon, Uganda, or Sudan. The issue is that the way Nigeria was brought together and governed for 50 years made it impossible, almost impossible, to have one Nigeria.
But we have one Nigeria.
We are working towards it. It's a work in progress.
It's not one yet?
They are trying to make it one.
Is it not one? There's one Nigeria.
Yes, there is one. I don't want to end up in jail from here. But the issue is that if it is... Okay, look at it this way. Why did Gowon release Awolowo and made him the prime minister of his government?
Why?
To keep Nigeria one.
But at that time, he had no option. He needed an Awolowo. He needed the brain of an Awolowo.
He needed the Southwest as well. Because the whole crisis that led to the coup was that the West became ungovernable when Awolowo was in jail. And Tafawa Balewa could not handle it.
We are looking at the Nigerian nationalist triad, and we are discussing the book Decolonizing Nigeria, 1945 to 1960. That's the book. What does it take to write a book?
A pen or a computer or word processor, and you sit down. And if you are like me, you tie yourself to the seat, and then you write.
And you write. But you must read to write well. After the federal election, by this time, Azikiwe refused to call on Balewa to form a government because the election was rigged.
Yes.
But according to all their famous analysis, the army did not back Azikiwe. If the army had backed Azikiwe, that would have been the end of Balewa, because Azikiwe was not going to call on him to form a government.
Yes.
But if research is anything to go by, the head of the army, Everard at that time, a British officer, took the side of Balewa. Azikiwe was placed under house arrest, and he was forced to call on Balewa to form a government. Dr. Dauda, at that same time, the NCNC had gone into alliance with the Action Group to form the United All Progressive Grand Alliance,
Yes.
OPGA.
Yes.
That was a chance for the Igbo and the Yoruba to come together, and they came together in 1964.
Yes.
If not for the 1966 coup, perhaps that was the coalition everyone was waiting for.
Yes. And if you recall that the 1966 coup, up to now, there is no way you can justify that the coup did not kill people in the East. Okpara was to be killed. There were so many other people on the list. Munosi also. How did it happen that the Igbo who led the coup was not able to execute it within his own ethnic group? No one could explain that, and no one could get that out of the pain that the people in the north felt when they saw the person they respected by the tree or in a shallow grave.
Okay. Yes, we'll leave it at this.
Thank you.
Because we'll continue. This is part 1. We are stopping here. It is a deep research. You, as the viewer, the listener, go and prepare for part 2. This is another book by Dr. Dauda. Life Begins at 70. I'll call this an autobiography. Is it not?
Okay, it is.
And it's also inspirational.
Yes.
You know, I love this book, Dr. Dauda.
Thank you.
You know, when I read it the second time, I read it once, and I kept it since then. But recently I picked it up. I said, no, can I read a book once? A book written by a scholar? You read it again and again. I felt the book. You talked about leadership, how to take care of one's health. Beautiful book.
Thank you.
You love the book?
Yes.
Why do you love your book?
I wrote it to mark my 70th, and men don't live long in my family line, so I'm the oldest or the one that lived longest. So I thought I could leave a legacy for people to learn on how to live their life. But the book is a lesson on. I wish I read it or knew about it when I was 30.
Yeah.
Maybe my life would have been different.
You know, the book is the manual for building a successful life and the Godfather's confessional memoir. Dr. Dauda,
Thank you.
thank you for featuring on State Affairs.
Thank you.